It was 4 months that your grandfather lived here. It was 4 very hard months, taking care of him and giving up my life, more or less.
It was, again, disruptive, but, he enriched our lives, and I think that, we feel, good about how we were able to comfort his last days, and he appreciated it, and he knew it. I mean, he knew he was dying, but he also was so appreciative of what Mom did for him, what we all did for him, and
I did get jealous. I did get resentful at times. But would I do it all again? Yes, because I loved that man. And I loved his wife. And she would have wanted me to do this.
there's no question that if we had it to do over again, we would have made the same decision. As hard as it was the right thing to do, and the biggest part of it is that he genuinely realized how fortunate he was to have us there taking care of him, and he expressed his appreciation every day until he died. And the day he died, just on a little bit more positive note,
It was, it had to have been a preseason game, but the Mets were on TV. And your father, Ken, he came home from work early. He said, I am going to sit here and watch the Mets, and I can't even remember who they were playing, your father might remember, and have a beer with my dad.
it was the first day of spring training that year for the Mets, and I asked Dad if he wanted to watch the ball game with me. I took the day off from work to do that because we knew it was towards the end. And I asked him if he wanted to have a beer, and he hadn't had a beer in who knows how long. So we shared a beer, watched a couple innings of the ball game before he got tired.
And again, it was just, I'm being very suspicious of these nurses, but it was amazing how when they knew that Ken was going to come home, they like laid off on the drugs so that your grandfather was kind of awake-ish. And your father and grandfather sat there and watched the game and had beer together, and it was really, really, really neat.
And that's how I'll remember my dad.
Yeah.
But then that night, and it was late, it was 10 of 12, it was February 28th, and it was like 10 of 12 at night, or quarter of 12 at night. When I was asleep, all of a sudden the nurse was up in my bedroom, waking me up, going, Stacey, he's going. He's going to die soon, and, do you want to be with him? And I said, yes, I do. And then I came into your room, and I went into both of your sisters' rooms. And I told you that your grandfather was going to die, and did you want to come down and say anything to him or see him? Or you and your sister Kathleen chose to come down and be with your grandfather as he died. But we were all around him. Your 2 uncles were there, your father, you, your sister, and I was there, all holding on to him as he died.
As I'm sure you'll read or allude to, his message that he left for us on his computer really was uplifting, about his lucky life, how he felt so fortunate in everything he did, being able to live in this wonderful country, serve it, return home alive from it, meet my mom. And he alluded to Mom many times in that letter about how lucky he was and how she stood behind him. And just how everything was viewed through a positive prism. That's the way Dad looked at life, very much so. He was an optimist.
We found a poem called My Lucky Life that he had written. We found a poem on his computer. And I don't know it by heart, but I know that there are copies of it around somewhere. But I don't have a copy. But I know we're all mentioned in it. So,
He left a good lesson there. Try to always look at the good side of things and appreciate life.
My lucky life. I've been lucky since my very first day. Lucky to be born in the great United States. Lucky to have had wonderful and caring parents, Charlie and Kay. Lucky to have my brother Dennis, who was my good role model. Lucky getting through the Korean War alive and well. Lucky falling in love with a beautiful, loving, and supportive wife for more than 48 years of marriage. Lucky that Dee said yes. Lucky to have Ken, Don, and Gary, our loving and successful sons with great moral values and fine taste in women. Lucky our sons married great girls and finally giving us really fine and caring daughters, Stacey, Nancy, and Lisa. Lucky for our 7 beautiful and handsome grandchildren, Kimberly, Kathleen, Shannon, Erica, Carolyn, Catherine, and Alex. Lucky that Dee said yes. Lucky to have found such true and long-time friends, Don and Mary. Lucky to have many other lifelong friends, Pat and Ben, Marilyn and Jim, Chet and Lorraine, Tony and John. Lucky to have the ad-lib advertising business in my life, and lucky to have Don to take over and run the business so well. Lucky to have expert doctors to manage my illnesses. Lucky to have Jesus watching over me and guiding every event in my life, especially when Dee said yes. Lucky to have accomplished everything I was meant to do while I was here on earth. Lucky to have lived long enough to see all our grandchildren become real people. Lucky to leave with all things in place in proper order. Lucky to be able to go to my next life to meet Jesus and all my friends and relatives who have gone before me. Ed Cogland. Only unlucky that my beloved Dee died before me.